monthly meeting of the Police Advisory Commission. As you can see, we have a light turnout this evening, but we appreciate you taking the time to join us. I'm Rhonda Goldfein. I'm the chair of the commission. To my left is
Michael Worthing, I'm a commissioner.
Ben Geffen, Commissioner.
Amandeep Chowdhury.
Erica Atwood, Interim Executive Director.
and in the back, oh, we have a familiar face.
Edmund Face, Director of Operations, back. Joe Jacob, Special Investigator.
And Special Investigator Intern.
Thank you. So if we look at our agenda, and the agenda is brief, so I can share it with you. We don't have minutes from our April 17th meeting. That meeting was an executive session, so accordingly minutes weren't taken. Commissioner Bowles, who is our secretary, is not here this evening. So his report was to simply update on our next 3 meetings, June 19th, July 17th, and August 21st. And are we working on alternate locations for those meetings?
We are working on alternate locations. They will be in various communities. It's looking like, waiting on confirmation for June. It's looking like July will be in South Philadelphia, and we're trying to figure out where August is going to be, but we're going to be more mobile than we have been previously.
Great, thank you. In terms of my report, I simply want to give an update for those of you who have been following the work of the Police Advisory Commission. We have been for some time talking about reviewing officer-involved shootings files. We, with an agreement with the city, we have possession of those files. We are in the process of recruiting volunteers from Temple Law School and Drexel Law School, law student volunteers to analyze those reports. With the assistance of Commissioner Wehrman, we're going to create a database so all the information that's gleaned from those reports can be entered into a database and put into a searchable format with the appropriate fields. I understand that we've had a little technology crash, so we are working on getting that fixed so we can move that process along. But we do have the Drexel students ready to go by the end of May. So we're excited for that project to move forward. The Koshman case, which we've talked about for some time again, I understand that Mr. Pace is wrapping that investigation up, and so we expect to see a report on that. Thank you. So within a week and a half, that's great. And then the other item is that last week, many of us were at the body-worn camera public meeting that was convened at Concilio. Erica moderated the event and did a great job. And as I was saying to Erica, that one of the great things that came out of that meeting was a framework on how we should be thinking about body-worn cameras. The PAC has not yet reached a decision on the city's program, but there were representatives from the group Upturn that talked about a scorecard, and they talked about the factors you should be looking at and what makes a good program and what makes a bad program. I would say they had about 7 or 8 factors on their scorecard. Does that seem about right to you? Oh, okay, dozen. My recollection, because there were like, the good, there was, good green indicators, there were yellow indicators, like, we gotta pause on this, and then there were some red indicators, which you can guess that then we don't like this so much. I think that Philadelphia had more positive than negative indicators, but we still need to look at it more clearly, or more closely. That scorecard can be found on our...
It'll be referenced in our annual report. It's also on bwcscorecard.org. There are actually 8 indicators for success. There are approximately 20 cities that have scorecards. The difference between, I think, Philadelphia and some of the other cities is that we are still in pilot phase and some of those are in implementation phase. Out of the 8 indicators, we have 3 very good, 1 okay, and 4 we need to work on.
Okay, so my assessment was a little bit off, so we have 3 good, 1 yellow, 4
Red.
red, okay.
And a lot of that, from my recollection, comes from not necessarily that we're not doing it or we're opposed to doing it. It's just that it's not articulated in our policies as of yet.
And I also want to point out that the deputy commissioner that attended the meeting talked about some of the factors still being in play. I don't want to quote him without the information in front of us, but I think that the meeting was videotaped.
Yes.
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 So, more can be found on that, and I'm sure that the Police Advisory Commission will be putting more out on that as the pilots move forward. So with that, Erica, your report?
Sure. Want to kind of piggyback on some of what Rhonda was talking about the body-worn camera meeting. There were approximately 50 attendees that came. We did it in partnership not only with Concilio, but with La Raza, and they brought their national kind of policy and civil rights person there, as well as Upturn. Harlan Yu came and spoke. So we had a presentation by the police, we had our national experts talk, and then we had a panel discussion on with local experts, including Rodney Muhammad from the NAACP, Mayor Catherine Roper from the ACLU, Thank you. Kara Bradford Gray from the Chief Defender and Deputy Commissioner. They're talking about kind of what the policies are, where we're going, how to better advocate for community, how community can better advocate for themselves, as well as where we are in the body camera process and what is available to still be worked upon and developed. In my opinion, it was a great dialogue, unlike other kind of community meetings, not ours, but there was an open and free conversation around improvement of the policies, education on the policies, and I think we did a really good job of getting ahead of the conversation in the 24th Police District before the body cameras are actually implemented, to educate community on a level in which we tend to do in response and not proactively. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is I mentioned it, but we're in the absolute final stages of editing the annual report, so that should be out before the month is out. Yes, committing to that, getting out before the month is out. We've been working with BB and the staff and Rhonda to get some edits and some accuracy on the report, so that'll be out in the coming weeks. I got absolute notice today that we are going to hire we are hiring a new public affairs manager that will start on Monday. He will be chiefly responsible for coordinating these meetings, doing outreach, building out a social media and community engagement strategy, and high on his priority list is updating our website.
Is that a full-time position?
Yes. Yes, it is a full-time, into their 24/7 position. So talked about public affairs. We have Joe, Will, and Edwin. Can you talk about the number of cases we have currently open?
Yeah, we had about 145 cases going back to 2014. Of those, I believe 38 were able to be closed, and the remainder remains still open. And of course, those cases remain open because of not having the final reports from ID. The other factor is 45 of those cases came in this year. So, which is good because we're getting, that's a big bump. For the first quarter is more than the entire last year.
What do you attribute that to? I mean, that's a high number for the first
Well,
5 months of this year.
Well, we changed to a better way of handling it. The new executive order allowed us to select the cases from the entire group of cats. So every month I did, in sending us cats, we were only focusing on walk-ins. Walk-ins may or may not be relevant to issues that we've discussed. But this way, we're getting the cases involving domestic violence, physical abuse, one death in the hard of hearing, right? And all the issues, the key issues that we have wanted to sink our teeth into. And so up to 45, they're all relevant. And so that's good. And so then we send our request in to ID for those cases and treat them as if they walked in.
Great.
So yeah, we've changed the policy, and one of the things that we talked about this morning is that there has been some level of consistency recently with getting the reports from IAD. Sometimes there's stops and starts. We've been getting them about 2 months as opposed to the fits and starts. Ideally, we'd like to get them every month, but the 2-month cycle seems to be consistent for now, so we feel like it's progress. The other pieces we've been in the use of force meetings. I'd say out of under 20 cases that were presented in the last meeting, predominantly they were animal shootings, be it deer or dog. Most of those were justified. There have been a couple other cases, but we have not seen the results of those as of yet. That is primarily my report right now.
Thank you. BB is not with us today. BB Gibbons, our counsel. So is there any old business we want to move to?
The only old business I think that is relevant is we've been talking for a number of months, even prior to me, about adding 2 commission members and kind of beefing up us to a quorum. I know there is movement there. There is a list that has been prepared for Mayor Kenny with some input from council members. That list is being reviewed in the next week or so. We will then do the process of interviews of those who potentially would be interested in becoming commissioners, and then the appointment process will begin. So hopefully, I've been pushing that by the end of the fiscal year, we will begin to have more and more, we will begin to have some new appointments.
Great. Great. I'm glad to hear that. Any new business?
Did you say a date for the office move event?
No, we do not. We've moved again. We've moved again before we moved. So we are in an LOI with 718 Arch Street. This is all new to you guys. This all happened last week. One of the things that, I think gaps in information that existed or misinformation that existed was that we had to be with Ross. Somehow public property thought that we had to be in the same space. Once we got through kind of that miscommunication and they realized that we were actually, while both adjacent to public safety, 2 separate different departments, not in need of being together, they looked for a space that was more accommodating for us, gave us the privacy that we needed and the accessibility that we needed. I looked at 2 spaces last week. I feel like the 718 Arch Street is sizable enough for us as we are and gives us a little room to grow. It is in walking distance to public transportation. It is close to the Roundhouse, like it's a block over, but it's not. The barrier to entry and the possible traumatization by walking through law enforcement does not exist in this space.
Is it next door to the federal?
It is. It is. That is the one kind of caveat. But the entryway is totally different. The building is nice. It's being redone. The office will be fitted for our specifications. So, yeah.
What else is in that building?
I don't know.
Is that where Liberty Resources went to?
No, they are around the corner on the other side of Arch Street. They're north. They're on the next block, on the 800 block north of Arch. But they're in Stone's Throw, on the other side of the parking lot.
Well, we will be eager to see how that plays out.
The way that it stands now, the office may be done by the end of July, given that there's a minimal amount of work that needs to be done in this space.
Great. Well, thank you. Any new business? So this is the part of our meeting where we open it to public comment. We appreciate you coming out this evening and listening to us do a little bit of have our business meeting. But we are interested in what you folks who took the time to come and meet with us tonight have on your minds.
Or any questions you may have for us about the commission.
Well, I just, how you doing? My name's Stan. Most people around here know me as Coach Nava. I'm athletic director of the North Philly Bearcats football team here. Guy downstairs just asked me to come up, so I'm not really familiar with what's going on.
Okay.
So if you just give me like a brief, so I know what's going on.
Sure. So we are a city agency that's charged with civilian oversight, which means that we work to make sure that there are good relations between the community and the police department. And so we look at complaints against the police, praise towards the police. We want to hear what your experience is with the police. Philadelphia has had, like a lot of big cities, a little bit of a troubled past with the police, and so our job is to look to see where there's that tension and be an opportunity for people to come forward, talk about what they've experienced and how we can try to make things better.
Okay. Well, I haven't really had any. I can't really say I had any run-ins with the police, but I'm learning more about the law. I'm a law student currently, and what I see most things are more based on observation and people's wrongdoing, opposed to like opposed to police officers just bothering people. And I understand this things of like profiling, discrimination, and things of that nature. But when you have people that's have a negative effect on the community, how do you expect these officers to act? I think a lot of people don't grasp it, because on one hand you have people who are in support of police protecting the community, but then you have other people who just frown upon it for whatever reason it is. Like, there's a lot of people that's just doing wrong. Like, we can take somebody that's driving without registration and insurance, for example. Now, what I've learned now is that police officers can run your plates and know your status. So when they pull you over, they feel like the police officer is just bothering them. That's not the case, and you're wrong. You're wrong in that aspect. But these people file complaints and claim harassment, but technically you're wrong. They're not wrong. So I just think it's more ignorance than anything. Although there is officers that they need to be moved on somewhere else, because a lot of them are wrong. But I see both sides of the bar, so it's kind of having more of an open mind to it, opposed to everybody just crying victim.
Well, we appreciate that view. I mean, one of the things that we're charged with doing is kind of building trust, renewing trust between the police and the community. And I think that means, getting bad actors out of the way and encouraging and showing that they're, that the bad actors don't speak for the police. You often hear that nobody hates a bad cop more than the cops. And so kind of build some trust from the ground up, starting with the kids, having cops in the neighborhood where people can trust and feel confident. So I appreciate your comments. Yeah?
Well,
experience has been just in observation is that a lot of the policemen who are patrolling the area, they don't have a relationship with the children. And so you have a lot of the young policemen who come out, and I don't know, how they're trained, but there seems to be very little interest in wanting to know the individuals that they are protecting, the neighborhoods that they're patrolling. And, I'm not sure we can go back to the way things used to be, but there has to be a happy medium where, our children should be able to know the names of the cops, and they should know some of their names. And so I don't see that. I see that they are definitely concerned about patrolling, but not relating. And so if you're assigned to a neighborhood or to a region, to an area, and you don't know the kids that you're watching grow up, then that does not lend to trust, certainly there are two sides to each coin. But, for the children who are seeing negativity, media-wise, and some of the things are just being, seen on television. They look at things on, the internet, and it's all negative. And so if you're living in a neighborhood and there is no relationship with those who are being seen as being scared, scary, they're boogeymen. They're not good cops. They're not people that they would feel comfortable with. They pretty much will run from them versus running towards them. So there has to be a relationship that's developed in order to even start the conversation of trust.
So we've heard in certain areas of the city, certain police districts, that there is more of an effort to build this trust. That the cops on the beat, the kids in the neighborhood, that there's this real connection. So it's difficult to hear that in your area that's not what you or perhaps your neighbors have been experiencing. Do you mind telling us which neighborhoods or districts so we could get that feedback? Because I think it's really important feedback.
Well, I grew up in Philadelphia, and 1964, and then in my adult life, sort of did the tri-state, New Jersey, Delaware, and I came back to Philadelphia, and it's a different Philadelphia to me. And so coming back into Southwest Philadelphia near Cobb's Creek area, certainly it has changed completely. And so having to, readapt to, what is actually happening there, which even the neighbors don't know each other like they used to. I live in a long block, and so I don't know the families on the other side or half the block all the way down. And so it's not just, the relationship between the police and community, but my experience, and when we went back, my daughter was 8, she's 17, and I watched, I remember one time being outside, and it was some disturbance going on, and it was a mob of kids, and I had called the cops myself to say, something's going on, it looks like it's going to escalate, we need to come. And so, they did come, but it was, they had grown weary, because it was a continuous situation. And so, just, being pulled over myself, and it was a situation where I was in front of my door, and we were temporarily, we had to run into the house to get something, and very harassing. I was like, no, I'm just, I live here, you're getting a car, and they was like, get it, it was just very hostile. And so, from an adult place, it very little relationship, and I said, is that necessary? As an adult, I can say, is that necessary? But it seemed to have triggered, because I think on both sides, they're afraid of us, we're afraid of them. And so, it's just been very daunting to watch, just even them speeding up the street, I'm like, our kids could be coming out into the street, almost no respect for the neighborhood, because I don't know if they live there. So if you don't live in the neighborhood and you're just patrolling a neighborhood, then you have very little, investment in it. And in our children,
Well, thank you. I mean, that's important feedback. And those are the kinds of things that we hear and keep bringing back to the police department.
To answer your question about the police who are walking around, sort of walking the beat, you do see them walking, but there is no interaction. So they are walking around, but to get them to look at you, let alone speak to you, they seem to be very disconnected. And if we're talking about improving the relationship between the police and the community, it's not sufficient for them to just walk the beat if they don't know the elderly person who's in the home, who's concerned about activity. And we know that when crimes are being solved, the police are not the ones that are solving the crimes. It's the people in the community. And so that relationship is key just to solving crime and de-escalating situations is critical training that is necessary, not escalating the problem, but de-escalating the situation, encountering them to do that. And if there's no interaction and they're walking the beat, it would be good if the police referenced an older policeman by the name of Melvin Floyd, who used to walk the beat and was very involved in decreasing gang activity years ago here in the city, because he not only walked the beat, but he knew the names. And we want our police and our young men especially, we don't want our young men encountering the police when they're being stopped. That shouldn't be their first encounter. Their first encounter should be the police getting out of their car and introducing themselves. And we're very concerned that when they are patrolling the community, very often in their vehicle, they are on their phones and are not really aware of what is going on. And that is an important adjustment that needs to be made, that they're not much use if they're on their phones when they're in the vehicle, let alone when they're out of the vehicle and not even looking, let alone speaking to individuals. And so we want to make sure that that relationship is improving.
Thank you. Which district was Officer Floyd?
He was around the city, Southwest, North Philly, West Philly.
Is he still with us?
He's long retired.
Oh, he's
But-
doing ministry now.
Yes.
He doesn't.
Yes.
Okay.
He's involved with Neighborhood Crusades
Yes.
and has a church in the Mount Airy section. His model for community policing was well known, well respected.
Thank you.
You know, I'm glad to hear you say that phrase, community policing, because from the moment you spoke this, I thought about the strategy of community-based policing. Police by districts can decide to be strict and, if I may use the phrase, militaristic, almost, adopting what criminal justice scholars would call a broken windows style of policing that's based on enforcing laws to the strictest letter. It's based on intimidation. It's crime reduction based on intimidation, that no matter what you do, you're going to be caught, you're going to be punished. And that doesn't foster good relations with the community. What both of you are suggesting is community-based policing model. And I know that captains and districts in the city have spoken about the need to adopt that model, but that's intimidating, to introduce yourself to people who you may not know, to try to foster relationships with other people. But if we hear feedback from members of the community that say, this is critical to establish these interpersonal relationships so that it's not a nameless familiar face in a car speeding by far too quickly down our street, or worse, an unfamiliar face. But it's a person that we know by last name, by first name. Who knows us? That's important feedback to try to communicate to the police so that they know this is what the citizens we're tasked with protecting are asking us to do. We could tell them everything in the world. We say, we've gone out to this neighborhood, and we continue to hear the same thing over and over again. I think that's what might, more than anything we say individually, foster change. So thank you for your comment.
Could you go further into the broken window? What is that? I mean, could you explain it?
Sure. It's been a while since I've read anything on it.
I'm Googling.
You're Googling? Yeah, it's two University of Maryland, that doesn't matter, scholars. So broken windows is the idea that any violation of the law will not be tolerated. Littering, graffiti, small, throwing rocks through windows, hence broken windows. The strategy that underlies that is the idea that if you commit any violation of the law, the police, the community will be on top of it, will punish you, will sanction you. And a community that says no small violation of the law will be tolerated, there becomes no question that, well, if I can't even get away with spray painting my sweet tag on the side of this building, there's no question that anything considered harsher or more risky than that would be acceptable. Therefore, I'm not going to try that. So there's a strategy, there's a logic that makes sense, but at its foundation, it's based on intimidation. No matter what I do, someone's watching, will attempt to catch me, will attempt to punish me. And that it doesn't care whatsoever. And the people who argue for that style of policing will agree. So it's not necessarily a critique. They say, yeah, we don't care about relationships, we care about results. So for them, no matter what you do, it's ensuring the certainty that you'll be caught and punished, so you won't try any harsher crimes. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, because as being in the community, you almost feel like you are a criminal if you just step out the door. Because the whole sense of patrolling and keeping you in check is an indicator that you're seen as someone who is a criminal.
Yeah.
And so, the relationship aspect doesn't even come up for consideration, because the whole approach is to keep it in check. And so I had a discussion about, our neighborhood, you can see it's growing and then it's expanding. You have Chinese, you have whites, and for me, I've lived there, and so it's like, it was predominantly black. And so, if we were running in the neighborhood with a hoodie on at night because it's cold, you're looking like a criminal. But because now it's different, it's a different look. If you're not looking like me and you run through the neighborhood, you're left alone. You're not seen as someone that needs to be put in check. And so that's the racist, that's the whole underlying thing. If you're living in a segregated, neighborhood, and that approach is enforced, and you walk outside that neighborhood and you don't see the same enforcement, you feel, there's a sense of feeling like, am I different? Now I'm grown and I know I'm not different, but our children grow up with the idea that they are targeted. And so, the whole broken window, that's very, I'm gonna look into that even further. That's interesting, because it does support why there is no, interest in the life of the person that you're patrolling versus you just need to be patrolled. There's a difference. And I don't know if that's asking too much of our policemen. I mean, back in the, back where it was a little safe and they could have that relationship, yes. But now, if I was married to a policeman, I would be concerned about him coming back home. And so you have to have that balance and being able to see both sides. But at the same time, how do we have this dialogue? I mean, this is open and the chairs are empty. And so, but it's so important, for our children to feel like, they're safe in their own neighborhood. And that they're not going to be, that the predator is not the cop. You know, of course we have, you know, crime, young people on young people crime, but when you feel like the person that should be your safety net is the person who is watching you to make sure you stay where you're supposed to stay, that almost feels like a, you know, feels like you are in a prison in your own neighborhood.
Let's get, you've been waiting and then you, sir, okay?
Well, I'm Patricia from the Commission on Human Relations, but I want to talk from a personal perspective here. As a resident of Southwest, in the 56 and Elwood area, we had a lot of issues with the police, but we didn't know them, and that's where the relationship is so important. First of all, when you go to a police district and you go inside the doors and there's a window there, and you stand there, and someone reluctantly says, "What do you want?" You know, that so much could be done just at that window. I recently encountered that in the 12th Police District. I was shocked. I was ready to call the mayor. I was ready to call the neighbor. I couldn't believe it. I was being treated. It was terrible. So that's one of those things. So that discourages people because it's almost like an active effort to push people away. But let me get back to the relationship building because that also, when you have an open dialogue, you can understand, just as they did the other night about the body-worn cameras. It was an open dialogue, and Commissioner Sullivan was there, and they were talking about it. People felt free because you created an environment where they could talk about this and learn and ask questions and challenge, but then hear some answers that they hadn't even thought about. And one of the things that I found was, I went to that civilian academy that the police department has, and it's open to anyone. It's like 10 weeks, it's one night, a couple of hours. Unfortunately, it's not the police academy, and I've tried to encourage them to think about putting it in their communities, because you go there, and each week you learn about a different aspect of policing, and why they do what they do. And it was so revealing, why they do crowd control, why they might isolate someone, why they might, it doesn't excuse rude behavior, but it does explain why they do things, because that's what you were saying. I mean, why would they do that? And there may have actually been a reason, and if you saw the reason. I remember one time the police didn't come into the house was being broken into, and I called the district, I asked for a supervisor. Finally, when they came out, they explained to us that something else had happened entirely. We didn't know that, so we thought the police were just disregarding us and we lived in 56 and Elwood. And the other thing is there are things in place called the Police District Advisory Councils, and their goal is to bridge the gap between the police and community to reduce the fear and incidence of crime. And any person in the city of Philadelphia who lives in a particular district is entitled to ask to be put on that Police District Advisory Council. They're small and it's at the captain's discretion, but that's a monthly meeting where you share information with the police officers. Sometimes they're tactical meetings to understand what's being done and why. And it's particularly when there's a lot of drug issues and people don't see anything happening, but they find out from the tactical meeting that there's like a 15-person unit made of 5 different agencies that have been working on that for 6 months, and you don't feel quite so frustrated. But it's that relationship building, and one of the things the PAC has done in the past, and we're planning on doing again with our office, is this Speak Up, Lace 'em Up initiative, and it just addresses just what you were saying. All too often, when a young person meets a police officer, it's always in a negative situation. People don't move, or the cops come through the school because there's a problem. It's always a crisis. It's always generally negative. So what we do is the DA's office, new conversations on race and ethnicity, part of White Rock Baptist Church, and the DA's office and Youth Commission, Town Watch Integrated Services, Commission on Human Relations. We have an opportunity for young people in the community to come out, eat some hot dogs, have some pretzels, and then sit down in small circles, 4, 5, 6 adults and youth in a circle talking about anything. It's storytelling, it's a conversation. It's not, what do you think of Ferguson? And we've done it in the 35th, the 14th, the 18th, and we're going to be doing it in the 26th soon, where these kids come out transformed. I get a kid a ride home on Woodland Avenue sat with one of the deputy commissioners. He's like, oh my God, a police officer never talked to me like a human being. And then they played basketball together, and the kids always scored. But this is where you were saying, you don't have anybody to talk to. So when they drive around your neighborhood and they're looking at you like you're the part of the problem, but then if it's somebody that knows you, you wave and it's hello, it changes the dynamic completely.
We'll be promoting that event and having that information on our website, so thank you. Sir, you had a comment?
Yeah, I don't need no camera though. I don't do cameras. You know, you gotta stop that camera. My question is, we're in the 22nd district. How often do you have these meetings? This meeting right here?
Monthly.
Monthly here?
No.
Or everywhere?
We do. We typically have done them in our offices at 990 Spring Garden. This is the second time I believe we've done it here. We're doing them out in community. We're gonna be more proactive in having the meetings in community as opposed to in our offices.
Only up to 22nd is one of the highest crime districts in 12 by stats. Look at this room. I didn't even know it was a meeting. I was sitting outside. I'm actually promoting a job here for tomorrow. But that's one of the problems. They don't have jobs. Every kid that come up say they need jobs. I was sitting outside giving out brochures. And with the 22nd district, I don't think the word got out to the community as far as flyers, whatever. And I'm in this building 6 days a week. And I work for the city as well, but at the same time, I see a lot of stuff going on. I hear the comments about the officers walking up in the pairs, X, Y, Z. They do that. The problem is, the police department have a policy. Whenever they graduate a class, they put all the rookies on beat patrol. So quite naturally, the rookies don't know the community. They call it equality of living. They got this captain, well, I don't know because they changed the captain so much in the 22nd now. Every 6 weeks it's a new captain. They got this thing about quality of living. So they go up the street, they put them on beats, 6, 7, 8 up. They go up here and bridge and see who be more and harass the old people for drinking. Fine, that's not quality. Meanwhile, there's crime going all the way. You can find at least 6 cops standing up there on the corner and set some tubes, but they're harassing people who's drinking. These are old people, they're not starting trouble, they're drinking. Now, you got robberies all over this district. I just told the gentleman, I said, I wasn't even coming up here because I'm tired of fighting the battle with it. The cops used to come here and sign a logbook every day. They don't do it. The only time they do it when you put pressure, when you call them to the district. That might go on for about a week. After that, you don't see that. They'll walk right past it. This is the biggest rec center in the city. Everybody wants to come to the Martin Luther King Center. Whether it's a basketball event, you got politicians come here, they hold their little event. They come at the event, and you don't see them no more. They come here, have a press conference. Oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Fine. Had a big press conference out here about these windows right here. They still boarded up. 2, 3 years ago, look. Oh, let's tint it up, that's a safety issue right there. Because some go to this place and broken into many a times. But this is the stuff they talk about. And so who's the captain? You used to have the community relation officer come here and talk. You don't see them no more. And like the lady said, you go down there in that window, 17th Montgomery, how can I help you? They don't even say that. What? Well, you got a witness? Well, oh, you got to come back. They slam the door on you. Or they'll sit back there, they're watching TV. They'll sit there, you stay there for about 5 minutes. You got to knock on the window again or ring the bell. Yeah, then they slam the window. What can I help you with? Well, do you know? Listen, I called a while ago, I'm sitting there waiting. I called first, we had a major fight out here about a month ago. Some teens in the Dubs. It says a fight breaking out, 22nd Martin Luther King. Cop came 2 hours later and said, where's the fight? Now I had adults and kids out there fighting. Kids. Cops never showed up. I went to the district the next day complaining. Oh, it was an emergency. So that's not an emergency outside when you got a big street fight. But the minute something happens, somebody get killed, is all over. You got every news channel, everybody, oh, we're going to do better. Like, I've been part of this rec center for years. I got a program here that I run as well with youth, basketball, and a lot of other things. So people actually think I work here, but I don't. I work in another part of the city. That's how much I'm in here. So they'll come for the, I need to do community service. Even with the rec department, they change leadership so much in here too, as well. You can never get sturdy people here, or they say, that's a dangerous neighborhood. That's a dangerous neighborhood. Perfect example, Martin Luther King Day, right? You had a Martin Luther King Center. They take it to Girard College. No, not. This is the biggest precedent. Not one time that they ever came here and said we're gonna have Martin Luther King Center at Martin Luther King Center as the hub. They got that big mural painted out on the wall. Now what's happening is this become a tourist spot. You see those tourist buses coming in now? They all get off and take pictures of the building because of that mural sitting out there now. So that's how they treat this neighborhood. And like the advisory council is starting to whittle down. The police advisory council. You go down there, they look at you like, I ain't got nothing against the seniors, but I had to prove people, oh, when you got a voice to come in, they don't want you in there. Because they're like a radical. They look at me like I'm a radical. But see, I don't hold my tongue. And I used to live in this neighborhood, but I still come back. Because I come back for the kids. And I come back for the kids. That's why I come back. But that's what we do. And as far as the police weeding out the bad apples, that's not gonna work. You know it, everybody in this room know it. You know why? Because they got an arbitration set up where 85% of those cops get their job back. Even the police commissioner Ramsey complained about had his hands tied. So weeding out the bad apples, that's a joke. I chase that type stuff until they come and change the rules with the arbitration. For one, it's not going to change because most of those arbitrators are judges and lawyers who backs the FOP or the fire police department. So that there ain't works. 85% of them get their job back.
Well, I want to thank you for your comments and kind of in a little bit of reverse order, that if you invite us to come back and ask your neighbors to come, we'd be happy to keep coming back here.
Give me the literature, we'll get it out.
That's great, we appreciate that. And you're absolutely right about arbitration. And one of the projects that the Police Advisory Commission is looking at is what can be done about arbitration. Because nobody wants to see bad cops continuing to come back. And so, that's something that we need to focus on, but we need to, support. You see, there's a few of us, we've got a couple of staff back there, but, maybe as a community we can make something happen.
I'm with you.
All right.
I need to get stuff. Hey, the initiative that the fact that you select this place to come, but I walked up here, it's like 10 people up here. And that gentleman right there, he begged us to come up here. I was sitting outside doing my work. He came out and asked us, me and the football coaches. He came, that's the only reason why I didn't know nothing about it. I said, what are you talking about? And I'm here 6 days a week.
Well,
and we got a bulletin board downstairs. Not one flyer or nothing down there. We got like 6 bulletin boards in that lobby. One of them's supposed to be for community information.
I also suggest this is good feedback because there's a new staff member who's going to be starting next week. We've been in a very understaffed commission for a long time. We have a new staff member starting next week whose job is going to be about community engagement. So this is good feedback for us to get, for us to discuss with this new employee, so that when we do these monthly meetings in different locations around the city, we can do a better job of spreading the word.
And if you would have contact information with the gentleman back there, we will come back.
It will. We'll get the word out. See, because that's something we got to do as a center. And the problem is most people come here, they just use the facility and walk back out the door. They don't have no connection of the director of the center. Oh, they just fill out the permit and that's it. So they want that date or the room. So, but you got to, it's all about following up with people. And that's for most people from the city or whatever agency comes in here, they just want the date. We just want to sign the permit for the date, we want to have our function, and that's it. And you don't see them again until they have their next function. That's just how it goes.
Well, all this feedback is important, and I appreciate everyone coming out this evening. So I appreciate that you got these folks that come upstairs, hear what we're up to. Other comments? So please take a look at our website. As you heard, it's going to be regularly updated. Our Facebook page is going to be regularly updated. We want to have a presence. We're working on it, so the little help we can get there. Anything else, Commissioners? Erica?
No.
Well, thank you all. Have a good night.